Hello, everyone, and welcome as folks are trickling in here. We're so happy to have you, and we have a great chat today. I am Hunter. I am one of the hosts and moderators with Power to Fly, and this is one of our Chat and Learns with our Chat and Learn series. So we're so happy to have you here, and I'll be going to introduce our speaker in just a moment. But first, as we're getting started, I'd like to just go over a little bit of housekeeping real quick. So first off, you can participate. Participate is how it's said in English. Um, and you can turn on your cameras. So feel free to turn on your cameras and we can see you and you can get a little face-to-face time with our fabulous speaker, Quinn. And you will pop up on the recording if you choose to do that, just so you know. If you want to ask any questions, while it's coming up, you have something on your mind, you can drop it in the chat, you can put it publicly, or if you prefer, you can message me, Hunter, privately. So you can go in the chat box, select my name, and send something to me if you want to ask a question anonymously, which I'm happy to relay on your behalf. Or if you have any thoughts or concerns, feel free to message me, and we will make sure to address it right away. Also, we have Power to Fly is on all of the socials, so feel free to follow us at Power to Fly and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can see some recordings of previous talks like this, as well as previous summits and all of our awesome content that is coming out weekly, if not daily. There we got lots of stuff. Okay, so today we're going to be chatting with Quinn from actually, I just realized, is it ribbon or ribbon?
First of all, that gives me the feels of like, is it Target or Target? No, it's
Yes,
Ribbon. It's Ribbon Home, yeah.
ribbon. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ribbon Home. So Ribbon is first of its kind real estate technology company that's transforming the real estate transactions by delivering certainty, transparency, and joy to the home buying process. So consumers and realtors deserve a better experience, and Ribbon has designed an open platform that welcomes everyone in the ecosystem to participate. We're going to hear a bit about that. We're going to talk about management, as you are well aware. So Quinn Williams, Quinn is a trusted leader with over a decade of various leadership roles. Between her time served in the Army and her experience in traditional real estate and real estate startups, Quinn has mastered a balance of being process-oriented, yet having a people-centered leadership style. Quinn is known to be direct and transparent, with a little bit of sparkle sprinkled in for the mix. And I completely agree with that ribbon moment. So that is a spoiler. You don't get to see that until later. But that is our hot take. So welcome, Quinn. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. So honored.
Oh my goodness. So folks are already saying hi. Thank you all for chiming in on the chat. Some folks are also calling out I think I got a private message about my dog, Francis. Francis is off camera right now. He's taking a little nap. Maybe he'll wake up and say hi, as he is one to do. How this is going to go, friends, is a bunch of y'all pre-submitted questions in advance, which is so awesome. And you can see some of those questions if you want. If you go to the Power to Fly website with the Chat and Learn, you can see that chat box. And also, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, that's how you can submit questions for future Chat and Learns. So feel free to check that out. And so I'm going to be going down the list of these questions. But if you have any questions that come up while we're going, like I said earlier, feel free to drop it in the chat and we will ask away. So Quinn, before I jump into the questions, is there anything you'd like to touch on, maybe about your bio or about yourself or how it is in Texas today before we jump in?
It is a balmy 90 degrees here in Texas. Me and Hunter had a great conversation about Buc-ee's. If you know, you know. But no, let's jump into the questions. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, great. Yes, Google Buc-ee's. It's wholesome and totally bizarre. Someone asked in advance, what's your main advice for getting our foot in the door for management tier roles? I love this, just kicking it right off.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I feel like that feeds directly into my answer, which is something my mom used to say is a closed mouth won't give in, right? So the very first thing that I suggest is to express it. Like say what you want, tell your supervisor what your intentions are, what you're looking to do in your career, whether it's, growing up the ladder or like laterally going to another team, trying to explore what you would like to do. So first and foremost, make sure that they know what your intentions are, so they can help put you on that path. And then also something that I've personally done is I ask what I can help with. Hey, manager, supervisor, what can I do to help you? Right? Make sure that they know that you are making yourself available and it's not just like talk, right? What can you take off their plates? Do they have any projects that they want? Or do you have any projects that you think would be beneficial to the team or to your manager or the company and overall? And then lastly, make sure that you ask for feedback. Feedback is a gift. I used to hear that and I thought it was so corny, but like it really is. Feedback is a gift. So ask for that feedback. That's the only way that you're going to grow. Because I don't care how self-aware you are, there are some blind spots that you have in yourself that you won't be able to see. And usually your supervisor should be able to, give you that feedback about what you can do to add to or improve yourself for that next move, whatever that looks like for you.
I love that. Feedback is a gift. I'm going to put that on a post-it note somewhere above my desk because I think it's easy for some of us to get like hypercritical of ourselves and when feedback isn't necessarily positive. And it's not usually when we're asking for it or if it's coming, we get positive feedback. And I love recently someone described as like make a brag bag for yourself, like copy and paste all the good stuff. But how would you suggest like incorporating something feedback that you think is spot on, but maybe is challenging at first?
That is super hard, especially like me. I'm a perfectionist, right? I'm type A, and I feel like you're telling me something is wrong. That means that I am horrible at my job. I'm a horrible person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Yep, same.
Yeah. So make sure that you step back from the feedback. It is never personal, right? Never, ever, ever take it personal. And one thing that I had to learn how to do is to not react immediately. Because a lot of times when you react immediately, you're going to get defensive, whether you mean to or not, if you're receiving critical feedback. So just don't react immediately and let that information absorb. Because a lot of times after that feedback session, and I think about it, I'm like, yeah, maybe I could see their point of view where I didn't see it before. So yeah, let it marinate, let it sit for a little bit before, you make a judgment about the critical feedback that you received.
That's really good advice. I have this, and I agree with you completely. I have this little sign that has like a little dog and his paws are out, and I actually made it. And I wrote, "Remember to pause."
I love that.
Pause.
I'm gonna steal that too.
I offer it up. I think I got the grass, so Sorry, inside jokes, friends. Friend was teaching me beforehand that I got the grass is a phrase of like the lay of the land, I think. So we're offering it up today. So another pre-submitted question we had was, how can we assess if a management position is right for you and they right for us? And they followed up with, could you share of some of the biggest challenges you've faced as a manager? So 2 questions there, but from the same person.
All right, both great questions. Again, I'm gonna tell y'all I had a couple of head scratchers with these questions, but I hope y'all find these answers valuable. So to see if a management position is right for you, first of all, assess, do you actually want to be a manager, right? Because it seems that some people want to have like the authority, or they think that that's automatically like the next step in their career, but they don't actually want that additional responsibility, or that's not actually what they're passionate about doing. So first and foremost, do you actually want that additional responsibility? Do you want this change in role? Because that's another thing that I've noticed whenever I and like peers have, gone from being an independent contributor to being a manager in that same like team, that same organization, it's really hard to like step back from that IC role and become a manager, because those are 2 different jobs, right? Whenever you're going from IC to manager, you always want to make sure that you're the subject matter expert, but you also want to be able to step back and allow your ICs to do their job. You're not doing it for them, because at that point as a manager, it's your job to support them in doing that role. It's not you doing their job for them. Let me see what else. You also have to have the ability to zoom out and see the bigger picture. As an IC, like you get like tunnel vision, right? You are in your day-to-day, you have your KPIs or whatever metrics, you have to meet whatever goals you have set. But as a manager, you need to be able to be that lens to be able to zoom out for your IC so that you can help to support them, because you can't have the same mindset of, having tunnel vision if you are there to support them. Let me see what else. You want to make sure that you want to be able to help others grow and succeed. I know that seems like a very basic thing that happens when you're a manager, but I think that some people don't think about that, because it's not just about like your career progression and what's next for you and you doing things for yourself or whatever that next step is for you, but also you have to be ready to support others in their career growth. You have to be willing to train and coach and mentor them, in addition to whatever your aspirations are. You also need to have operational skills. Some people lack operational skills, and being in a management position, you have to kind of balance between being people oriented, but also process oriented. And a part of that process oriented, characteristic is having at least a little bit of operations mindset, because it's not just I'm having one-on-ones with my people and supporting them. It's also supporting the company as well.
Those are great tips. I love that. And the follow-up question they had is, could you share some of the biggest challenges you faced as a manager?
I could go on and on for days, but one of the biggest things that I found an issue with that I had to really like hone in on is that I'm an empath and I'm an introvert. And so I take on people's feelings and energy. And, if my ICs were having a bad day, I would take that on and I would be sad and upset for them. And then I would be drained and I couldn't, give everything that I needed for all of my other direct reports and all the other tasks and responsibilities that I had that day. Right. So, in trying to figure out how to navigate that, I think one of the things that I did that helped the most was setting boundaries and enforcing those boundaries. I had to make sure that, like, one of them that's really basic that I practice myself and I encourage everyone on my team to practice is nothing is an emergency. And we literally do work a 9 to 5, right? So I do not work before 9 a.m. And unless there is something that I absolutely have to take care of after hours because of time difference or whatever, I don't work after like 6:30. I usually work until about 6 o'clock. So setting those boundaries and enforcing those boundaries, because it's so easy, because again, as like a type A personality, I'm a perfectionist. I want to get everything done. If I created a list of 10 things, I want to get those 10 things done today. And that's just not feasible. Right. Also learning how to effectively communicate was another thing that I had to learn, how to get my point across to other people, being vulnerable, so that I could help build trust with my direct reports. And again, balancing that, supporting people, but also supporting process in the company in the same vein.
Oh my gosh, so much wisdom in there. Monique said in the chat, teach me your ways. I identify with introvert and high empathy feelings.
Look, it's been, let me tell you, it has been a journey with that. I feel like when I identified, I had like the whole empath thing was when I was in the Army. I was a medic, right? And so I had all these people coming to me with literally all of their problems, medical and mental problems, right? So I would feel so bad and be like, how can I help this person? And put all of my effort into this one person. And it literally drained me all the time. So like when I stepped out of the military and came into like the corporate space, the startup space, I had to learn that I can't do that. It's not reasonable. Honestly, it doesn't make sense at all. And then if you're expending all your energy on one thing, how are you going to be able to get all the 15 other things done that you have to get done,
Absolutely. Boundaries, nothing is an emergency. You talked about vulnerability. that makes me think of Brene Brown, how vulnerability is an act of courage, and it's easy to think that, oh, I'm being weak if I'm showing vulnerability. It's like, oh no, we can flip it actually.
Yeah, exactly. Vulnerability that is a skill, honestly, to be vulnerable with other people, especially people at work. It's okay. I wouldn't say cry at work. I've probably done it a couple times. I wouldn't say do that in like really, really rough circumstances. But I think that your direct reports need to know that you're a person too. You're a person, you have feelings, and you understand their feelings. And the only way to do that is to be vulnerable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And to balance it with boundaries. It's this fine it's Libra season right now. We want to balance the scales.
Exactly.
Well, you talked also earlier about identifying as an empath and an introvert and being type A, which I love hearing all three of those in one, because I think type A's often will be like, oh, they're extroverts, it's like, necessarily. So someone asked on this question, I'm going to segue into it. What tips can you give to introverts to being great leaders? So as you described, you're an empathic type A introvert, but also, you bring, you show up and you have this light to you as well. So there's lots of different kinds of introverts. Maybe you can speak to ones that you identify with, and also maybe other ones that you've interacted with in the
Yeah, of course. So I'm an introvert. I've learned recently, though, this new term called an ambivert, where it's you have some degree of both introvert and extrovert tendencies. I am an introvert, and I just happen to have some characteristics of an extrovert. Does not mean that I'm an extrovert. Okay, people drain me. Okay, and I feel like that's safe to say. I don't like going to big functions. I don't like networking. Oh my God. When I was a real estate agent, I had to network all the time. Worst part of the job for me. So I'm so glad that I stepped away from that. But I feel like it took a while to find that balance. And one thing that I had to learn, and that I've seen other people learn that are introverts, is you do not have to change your personality in order to be a good leader at all whatsoever. Like, one of the best things that you can learn, that you can make sure that you do as an introvert, is to be a good communicator. To be able to get those thoughts and feelings across. Because if you are an introvert, you're always like stuck in your head, right? You have 50 million things going on in your mind. You think about things down to the very minute detail, and it's all in your head. And so sometimes if you're so used to just being in your head, it's really hard to communicate those things to others, right? To articulate those ideas in a way that other people will understand. So to overcome being an introvert, learn how to be a good communicator. And if it's not something that comes natural to you, you can learn it. That is a skill that you can literally learn. But always remember, like, don't change yourself. You don't have to be a bubbly cheerleader in order to be a good manager. That's not a necessity at all whatsoever. Just learn how to communicate, get your point across, and don't change yourself. Let me see what else. The boundaries thing, we talked about that. Creating those boundaries was so important to me so that I wasn't drained every single day of my life, coming to work and doing one-on-ones and being in, 50 million meetings a day. I think that's it. Being a good communicator and having those boundaries for sure.
I love that. Yeah. The boundaries, another term for that is self-care, right?
Yeah.
And Mary in the chat here was talking about how we have all these million different things to do, but you have to manage yourself too, or you can't manage others, right? That's what Mary said in the chat. And that's like, put the life mask on first before you put on someone else's oxygen mask.
Exactly. Look, another little ism is you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And if you know that every time, if you have a full glass at the beginning of the day, and every time you have a meeting with someone or a phone call, there's a little bit being poured out every single time you have to have an interaction with somebody else, which is literally me. That is literally me. So I can't give like 100% to each and every conversation. I can't give 100% to everything. And I have to be able to stop, know that there is a stopping point, and also be able to manage and control my time and where my energy is spent.
Yeah. Isn't that an interesting balance where we can't give necessarily 100% of our energy to every single person, because then the cup is empty, but we can give more than enough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's another skill that you'll hone on in, I think, as a manager is managing. Everybody is different. And so you have to manage everybody different. And so thank God I don't have, every single direct report that needs, a lot that needs me to give more than most others. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is also good. So we got 40 minutes-ish, about 35, 40 minutes left, everyone. So keep these questions coming. This is so fantastic. Keep the comments alive. I love it. So I'm going to keep going down our pre-submitted questions. And as any more things come up, feel free to drop it in the chat. Quinn, I would love to hear about as well when you're talking about taking breaks and pausing. How do you, Quinn, fill your cup back up?
I make sure that I eat because I will literally forget to eat during the day and to take breaks. So I build those things into my calendar. My life is driven by my calendar, essentially. So if I don't put breaks, I literally put time on my calendar for breaks and for lunch. I have to, so that people don't schedule over that. And so also that's a reminder to me to stop and take time to myself. And then also when I step away from work at 6 o'clock, I'm done with work. Mentally, I am done. I also make sure that, and I know this may be difficult for some people because everybody don't live in Texas where all the houses are, 5,000 square feet, but I make sure that I have an office and I have my bedroom, and the two do not mix. I do not ever bring my laptop out of my office. I do not ever bring my laptop to my bed at all. I don't care if I'm sick. If I'm sick, I'm taking off. If I feel like I need to work from bed, then that means I need to take that day off. So I create boundaries. And so if that boundary for you is you have your office and your bedroom are the same room, leave that laptop at the desk, close that laptop, and do not go back to it. Do not go back to it once you decide that you are done with work for the day. And if you are used to not having that strong boundary between the two, it's going to take a long time for you to get used to that. And that's okay. Give yourself grace while you're trying to create that boundary, but put effort into creating and enforcing that boundary.
That is such good advice. The physical removal of certain things, if you have the luxury of space, that's great, but there's also little ways that you can find that. I, for a bit as well, with depending on what phone you have, but now there's different features and there's different apps too that can just make sure you don't get certain notifications until a certain time, and snoozing things and all this stuff. Like, these are acts of self-care. And I think, and maybe Quinn, you may agree or disagree, but I think it's a way for us to do better work, right? It's so that we can be the best when we show up, as opposed to being grumpy or drained or hungry or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, exactly. Something that I would do when I was in IC and I had to deal with customers calling me directly all the time. And something that I tell my direct reports now is, don't install apps on your phone if you can, right? We have like a VoIP system that, is an app that we can also download on our computer. We have like Slack, we have like our work email. I only have those things on my laptop so that when I do step away, I don't have the temptation to check my email on my phone, because my work email is only on my laptop. And I physically close the laptop. And I think that gives me a little bit of like, it makes it a physical thing that says the day is ended, right? And I do not re-engage with work at all whatsoever, because again, you can't pour from an empty cup, and you have to be ready for the next day. And you can't do that if your mind is constantly on work.
Absolutely. I have a checklist. Are you familiar with the acronym HALT?
Yes.
This one, yeah. My hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
Yeah.
Usually if I'm off, it's usually a combination of hungry, and that makes me angry, and that makes me tired. So it's usually a combination of those three, but it usually does start with hunger.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to be able to take that pause to even assess, what the issue is at that time if you're feeling a little irritated,
Absolutely. Remember to pause.
To pause.
So we got some great questions from the chat here. Simona asked, how would you recommend tackling the infamous first 90 days of a new job?
That is a good question. I'll tell you something that I learned a long, long time ago was that in order for you to really become a subject matter expert at a new job, whatever that new job is, whether it's leveled up to a new job or moved laterally to another like organization in your company, is to be observant. Right? You can't come in messing everything up, like knocking everything down and saying everything needs to change, because you realistically don't know what needs to be changed. You don't know what the processes are. You don't know where the holes are that need to be filled. So the first 90 days, usually the first 30 to 60 days, depending upon the role, I'm observant. I shadow people. I shadow my direct reports. Like when I first started this job, I did not get promoted from an IC to a manager. I came into this role straight as a manager from a whole other company, a whole another organization. So I was never that IC. I don't know what the ICs do day to day, right? They are the ones doing the thing. I am not. So I shadowed a bunch of my different direct reports. I shadowed people in different orgs that, were cross-functional collaborators with us. I talked to a bunch of different people. I literally took that first 30, 60 days to just learn. And then once I got a grasp of things, which honestly, it took me like a good 4 months to really get a good grasp of everything. That's when I started implementing changes to processes and, really, digging my heels into everything. So yeah, first things first, observe, learn. Don't come in knocking everything down and being like that person. Don't be that guy.
Mm-hmm. The bowl in the china shop, or the
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's perfect.
Yeah. All the isms, right? I love on Mythbusters recently, they did put a bowl in like a antique shop, and it was quite docile. It was fine.
Oh, okay.
Like
I was gonna say that's
around.
chaotic.
That one's busted, but we get the idea. Okay, so these are great question. That was from Simona, and if you have more questions, please do drop them in. Simona says, thank you. I want to be observant, but it's very hands-on environment, and it's hard to meet people and ask questions. Plus, they expect results quite quickly. LOL. I have definitely been the bull when I was younger.
Same. I did the same thing. And I had to have one of my supervisors sit me down one time and explain that to me, because that's one of those things where I feel like I'm pretty self-aware. However, I have blind spots on who I am and how I perform. And that was one of those things that someone had to point out to me before. You can't just come in and change things. You don't even know what's going on,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Valuable lesson.
Yep. And that is ding, 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 feedback.
Exactly. Critical feedback that I had to sit with. I had to sit with it for a long time, but it made sense eventually. It clicked.
Yeah. And it takes the feedback, and then it also takes practice, right? Like literally practicing to just pause, to be observant, to wait, and listen, and then have the experience of that, to feel it. It's one thing to think it, it's a different thing to actually do it in our bodies, like a sport or any sort of physical activity, right?
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. As a doer, I see myself as a doer. I have to do things, and it was really hard to sit on my hands for a little bit and just wait, observe, listen,
Yeah, it's easy. I identify with that too. And I think the old thinking, wherever it's come from, learned behavior or socialization or whatever, of just like, you're being lazy, you got to do something, right? And it's like, no, I'm actually taking stock. Like, I'm actually preparing. I am studying right now, or whatever it is.
Exactly. No, that's 100% right.
Yeah. So we were just talking about feedback, and someone asked, giving feedback is crucial for professional development. And as a manager, this person writes, I rarely get any feedback. How can I create a safe environment in which my team feels comfortable enough to share feedback on my performance? I love this question. And whoever wrote this, thank you for thinking of this.
Yeah. No, I agree. Feedback is important. Feedback is a gift. Remember that. But one thing I'll tell you is, again, like, ask for it. a closed mouth won't get fed. You won't know what you need to work on unless you get that feedback from others. Who to ask? I ask my supervisor, obviously, because they'll have some insight of my performance from from a zoomed out perspective. I also ask my peers. I ask people on other teams. I ask my direct reports because their feedback is paramount. I am here to serve them, to support them. And at the end of the day, if I'm not doing that, then there's something wrong, right? So I ask everybody and their mama for feedback, everybody. Now, feedback is a gift, feedback is critical, but also make sure that you're looking at it through, make sure that you don't take absolutely every single piece of feedback and act on it, because it's not always going to be doable. But I do ask everybody for feedback. And then that also helps you train that muscle of receiving feedback, receiving critical feedback. And then again, like I said, with the direct reports, I feel like that is probably the most important feedback, I think, once you do become a manager. And it takes a while to get them to feel like they can trust you with that feedback, with being honest with you. So you have to first build that trust with your direct reports, be honest with them. I mean, people can tell when you're not being honest. So I try to be as honest as possible with my team. If I don't know nothing, if I don't know something, when they ask me a question, I don't know, I'm sorry. I'll go circle back and I'll get that answer for you, but I'm as honest with them as I can possibly be. Something that I learned was to lead with influence and not authority. So part of that is, instead of just directing them to do things, I give them the why behind it. This is why we need to make this change, or why we're asking for your feedback about this, or that, right? Make sure you talk to them and not at them. That's another part of leading with influence instead of authority, to build that trust. Make sure you have an open door policy, follow up on things. Don't just be somebody where they tell you something, they have an issue or an escalation and it doesn't get handled. I always try to close that feedback loop, because that breeds trust. Let's see, I give praise every chance I get. I make sure to actively listen. Again, I'm vulnerable. And during their one-on-ones, I emphasize that is their time, not mine, not my time to just talk at them. So with all of those things, that builds trust and allows them to feel comfortable giving me feedback, even if they feel it's not the most flattering feedback to their manager. But they feel comfortable because they realize I'm just a person just like them, right? I'm here to support them. And the only way I can do that is if they're honest with me and tell me what I could do better to support them.
Oh my gosh, so many good things in there. Thank you for this, Quinn. And you're getting a lot of positive feedback in the chat right now. Someone is going to put the sticky note up of feedback as a gift. And that was from Mary. And Taylor had a comment that said, I can find that some people love to give feedback. And I've had a manager in the past where I stopped asking for feedback because it was constant, that it could be taxing. So it's either too much or too little. Some folks have chimed in.
Yeah, that is tough. That's why I said too, all feedback isn't going to be valuable to you. But that's why whenever you do receive critical feedback, think on it, marinate in it first. And then if you don't feel like it's honestly valid, don't question yourself, because sometimes it's not valid, But also in that situation, I would have brought that up to my supervisor. Hey, I feel like I'm getting constant negative feedback. Is there anything that I'm doing correct? Is there what can I do to actually improve, and see if there is actually feedback in that, right? Because in my opinion, it's not feedback unless it's actionable, right? If it's not something that you can take action on and change, or if it's something that's a personal attack to you, if some of the feedback that I used to get when I was in the Army all the time was that I smile too much. I'm sorry. You want me to not smile when I talk? That's just something that I do, right? In my opinion, that wasn't super actionable. Sorry that I'm happy, WTF. But yeah, some forms of feedback are not valuable and not actionable. So in those instances where you feel that way, or you're not 100% sure about how to move forward with that feedback, ask for that follow-up. Because again, feedback has to be actionable. Otherwise, you're just talking crap about me, and I don't appreciate that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's circling back to boundaries,
Mhm,
self-care, and also you
mhm.
said this filtration system, right? Of not applying all of the feedback that we get
Yeah,
because some of it maybe is just sometimes, and this is what we get from experience, right? We get to learn more about, you're like, oh, this might actually be about the other person and not so much
yeah,
about me. And that
yeah,
comes up,
yeah.
but that takes practice and takes experience and confidence in ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes people will project things on you that have absolutely positively nothing to do with you. So again, like in those instances, ask for follow-up. What action am I supposed to take? Do you want me to take on this? Right? Can you give me specific examples of what led to you giving me this feedback? So follow up, always follow up. Never leave a feedback session wondering what to do next and how they came to that opinion, to that thought.
Yeah, and I love too, another post-it noted. It's not feedback unless it's actionable.
Truly, honestly, it's not feedback unless it's actionable. I mean, because we're in a work environment where we're not just sharing our personal feels about everybody, everybody else. We're at work, so we're here, I feel like, to be better. And the only way you can be better is by taking action. And so if feedback is not actionable, what good is it? If you're hearing something negative or critical about yourself and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes. And I'm going through the comments here. Thank you for your participation. And there was also a shout out when we were talking about introversion and like tips for introverts. There was a shout out to a talk with Jacqueline Shawless, which I was very lucky enough to get to moderate. Please do watch it. She is so awesome and she has so many amazing actionable tips for all the different variants of introversion and ambiverts, which is where that's the word, right?
Ambivert, yeah. Mhm.
Ambivert. I learned it from her. I hadn't heard that yet. I was like, oh, that's me.
Like I feel seen, I feel heard. I'm with my
That's what
people.
I kept saying to her.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly what I kept saying to her. I'm like, I'm sorry, is this talk just for me or this is for everyone, right? Have you been reading my diary, Jackson? We had a question that came in directly to me that asks, Quinn, do you have any advice for managers who have been managing but never studied business admin in school or don't have an MBA?
Oh, honey, I am the right person for that. I did not even go to college. And I know, I know that I went to college for like one semester but I was in the Army, I got deployed and I just never went back. Right. So honestly, there was no real education. One semester does not equate very much education. And I'm fine. I tell you, I am doing better than a lot of people who went to college. I'm doing a lot better. Like, it is not necessary to have those things. I feel like experience has definitely been that has been the crux of my whole entire career thus far, is experience and asking for that feedback and putting myself out there, asking what else I can do, or just saying, volunteering, hey, I want to do this thing. Either I know how to do it or I need some more support and resources. Who can you direct me to help me with that? Like, asking for things, again, a closed mouth won't get fed. And because I didn't have that formal education, I had to learn it some way. And so I learned it from the people around me for sure. So those things are not necessary at all. Be open to learning, be open to asking for and receiving feedback. And then also just don't stay in your lane. I would talk to people in total other different teams and organizations that had nothing to do directly with what I was doing, but it didn't matter. I wanted to know the whole picture and how everything worked, how every single cog in the machine contributed to, our company's goals and missions, and how it contributed to what I was doing day to day. So totally not necessary. Experience is key. Education is not. It's not 100% needed in every role.
There you have it. Okay, we had great questions here, and for someone that asked for, if they are, it sounds like they're a manager, they said, how can we encourage an ownership mindset in our teams?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So one thing that I do to try to make sure that my team is owning everything is to let them feel like they are a part of the decision-making process,
Mm,
which is super easy to do because I've worked at my last two jobs. This is my current job and my previous job. We're at startups. And so things are constantly changing. And so we have a need for change and for feedback. So I ask my team for feedback. And again, because I stepped into this role as a manager and I was never an IC at the IC level as my direct reports, they're the ones that are the subject matter experts. They're the ones that are doing the thing, right? They have a completely different point of view than what I have. So who am I? Who am I to dictate to them 100% what they need to do and what is best for them when they're the ones doing the thing? So let them feel a part of the decision-making processes whenever you can. Trust them, make sure that they know that you do trust them and trust their judgment. And then also just helping them to be able to zoom out so that they can see the bigger picture. Because again, in IC land and I think most other roles, you can get tunnel vision. And so helping them to be able to zoom out to see how they fit in, what piece of the puzzle they are in this whole grand scheme of things. It definitely helps to, give them ownership in the company and our success and, everything else.
mm. Absolutely. And this is a perfect segue into the next question. Could you share some tips on how to improve the communication across the whole team? How would you love to? I would love to hear how you handle your teams.
Mm-hmm. So communication is tricky, and you're dealing with so many different personalities, and depending upon how big your team size is. First off, there's different ways to communicate, different ways that you do communicate with your team, right? You have your one-on-ones, you have your team meetings, you probably have your big, huge meetings within your organization or your overall company. So like in my one-on-ones in particular, I let them guide the one-on-ones. That is their time. They tell me what they feel they want me to help them and support them with, what gaps they want me to help them fill, what muscles they want me to help them improve on and work better. So that's one thing. Encourage them to communicate, tell them that this is their time. When we have our team meetings, same thing there. I ask for everyone's opinion on certain things. And if someone is quiet, I ask them to give me their opinion too, because I want to make sure that everybody feels that their opinions are valued. We have our little Slack channels and all that stuff, but something else that I do that may be corny, I don't know, but I like to make things fun. I like to have stupid little icebreakers where I ask them stupid things. Like we had this Slack thing where I asked them, is it cake? And I had a whole bunch of different pictures of things that weren't supposed to be cake that were cake. Like one of them was a toilet, just side note, how did you do that? Who decided to do that? I don't know. But stupid icebreakers and stuff like that to get people talking, to get people feeling comfortable with me and with each other. And then that also helps to personify everyone, because especially in this work from home environment, all we are to each other, all we can be is these little pictures in a Zoom box or a name in a Zoom box, right? Because we're 100% remote at my company. And so encouraging them to give feedback at every chance that I can, and then building that trust to where they feel comfortable communicating and giving feedback is super important. That's what I found is super important. And again, using my cheesy, corny icebreakers doesn't hurt either. So
Yeah, there's the balance of keeping it light, and then you get to learn something fun about each other, right?
yeah, exactly. We try everything. We do happy hours and we don't make it mandatory. I remember when I was in the Army, we had to do mandatory fun and everybody had to show up and pretend they were having a great time. That's not it here. We do virtual happy hours where we literally have a libation of your choice if you want. And we just chit chat and we talk. Or last time I did my happy hour, we did a game online where everybody participated and everybody got to laugh and enjoy each other. So yeah, I feel like for the most part, I try to put the ball in their court, right? So that they have no choice but to communicate. If I'm telling you this is your one-on-one and you got to tell me what you want from me to help you with, you have to talk. there's no choice in that matter.
Right. And that might be helpful for some to get that opportunity to start like, oh, okay, these are the things I want to bring to the table.
Yeah.
And Quinn is someone I feel like I can trust and I can talk to, and it's good practice too as well to like develop that skill.
Exactly. Because I think that a lot of my direct reports that I've had so far in my career, they want that upward movement. They want that advancement in their career. They want to climb that corporate ladder, but they lack like confidence. I feel like a lot of the times they lack confidence in like speaking their mind, being opinionated. Being opinionated is perfectly fine and okay. A lot of times they know the answer to a question. They just have to like talk through it because they're looking for validation when they don't need it. Right. And so forcing them to talk and tell me what they need pushes them through all of those different hurdles that they see as hurdles that are just easily fixed.
Looking for validation when they don't need it. That's feel seen right there. I want that. I want the good student credit, is part of my old baggage that I get to slowly let go of with every conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, friends. So we got about 15 minutes left, a little time check moment. Feel free to keep those questions coming. We got lots of great ones. I love the term mandatory fun. Yeah, exactly. I don't remember if anyone saw this, is so dumb, but there was this like internet meme of this woman that's like, it's going to be great and we're going to have fun. And she was like so intense, like trying to force fun on her kids, or I don't know, who knows, but that's what I think of when I think of mandatory fun.
No, that's exactly what it was. You have it down. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Thank you, Erica, for posting. Feel free to follow Ribbon's company page at Power to Fly. Ribbon is hiring, so you can also see some job listings there. And if you go through our Power to Fly website, as many of you are aware of this at this point, Ribbon will know that it came through this chat and learn. So you can, give Quinn a shout out, get some attention there, maybe get some one-on-one time with her, who knows, practice these skills that she is offering up. Another silly thing I thought of, I love that you did the is it cake moment. And I was just, as a Southerner, maybe, I don't know, you might have mixed feelings about this. I just rewatched Steel Magnolias last night. Mm-hmm. And there's the armadillo cake in the wedding moment. And it's clearly a cake, but it's horrifying.
Look, I'm gonna tell you something. Honestly, I find the whole is it cake trend disturbing on many levels. I don't know why it irks my soul, but it does. I don't understand it. So yeah, it was a great conversation piece.
I love that you did it, but it makes you crawl.
Inclusion. Look, it's more than just about me, in my opinion.
Go. Inclusion. Oh, I love that. Oh my God. We really are having a cake moment in the 20s, aren't we? It really is. Everything's about cake. Okay, let's see. So we're getting some more questions. Mary asks, how do you deal with problems on the team or with plans from the company that may not be the best for the team? How do you manage really tough situations? Oh, great questions, Mary.
Yeah. Those are very loaded questions because that is a hard path to tread, for sure. So I'll dissect your questions. So first, dealing with problems on the team. The first thing that I try to identify is it a people problem? Is it a process problem? Like, what type of problem is it, right? Because if it's a personality thing between like two or more people, then we need to, identify and fix that in a different way than from like a process thing, right? Or an overall like company thing. So first, identifying the type of problem that it is before I go into like trying to tackle it and fix the problem. As far as plans from the company that may not be the best for the team, I feel like that is not my call to make. Whether or not something is best for my team or not. A skill that I've had to hone in on being a manager, being an employee, period, honestly, is that the company, the organization is going to make decisions that you don't always agree with. And Sometimes they work out for the best and sometimes they don't, right? But you have to be, when you work for a company, you have to be aligned with their mission. It is not my mission, it is the company's mission. So whether or not I agree with it, I trust that my leadership is doing what's best. I do, however, opinions are valid. I do let my supervisor know, I don't know if I agree with this. This seems a little janky. I don't know. This is just what I think. Let me know what you think or how to navigate it. Because oftentimes when something happens, when there's a decision made that I don't necessarily agree with, or I don't know how to move forward with, I ask my supervisor, how do I talk about this to my team? How do I convey this? Give me the why. Because again, the why is always important. Even if I don't agree with the how we're fixing it, the why is always important. And I think everybody can usually get behind the why for the most part. And again, if I don't have the words to convey it to my team, I ask for, assistance with that. Let me see. What was the other part of your question? How do you manage really tough situations? Moment by moment. Oh my gosh. I feel like a lot of the time in tough situations, first and foremost, listen. Listen. If you're having issues, if you're one of your direct reports is having some sort of issue, whether it be with another person or you, or, with process or the company as a whole, first and foremost, listen. Just listen, because most of the time, I'll tell you, people just want to be heard. That whole trope about, I want to talk to the manager, that happens quite a bit. I am not customer facing. I'm not in a customer facing role. I'm a manager. And a lot of times the customers that deal with my direct reports want to talk to a manager. And when I talk to them, it's literally, they just want to be heard. They just want to get it off their chest. They just want to vent and they just want to be heard. And a lot of times that's what it is like with your employees. And again, some tough situations can be worked out just by them talking about it, just by them speaking about it and going through it. And we walk through the solution to the problem, and they often know what the solution to the problem is. They just have to get to it by talking through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people want to be heard, and there's and to be seen, to make sure that it didn't go unnoticed. Because then, like you said, people already do know the answers, and they just need to talk through it as well.
Yeah, and that's totally valid. And I always try to think about like the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated. You want to be heard. So make sure that they feel heard and they feel seen. And again, that helps you build that trust and that rapport with your direct reports, so that everybody is honest with each other and they trust that you are guiding them in the right direction. And let me tell you too, sometimes when we do have those situations where a decision comes down that wasn't 100%, that I was like, I'm not sure about this, I tell my direct reports, this is something that we're doing. We may not understand it, but let's try it. Let's go through it. Let's go through the process and then give your feedback. Because again, you don't want to be a bull in a china shop where you're just automatically saying this is not going to work or I absolutely don't like it, when it may work out in the end,
Yeah, absolutely. It may work out. There's it's sort of, another approach to like, let's wait and see. Let's not be reactive. Let's see how it develops. Let's see how it changes. Maybe just by having someone giving the opportunity to be heard and seen, things might get better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's, as a doer, I think you identified that as in yourself, and I identify as like, I'm a doer. Sometimes I can do less to help.
Yeah. And that's hard. That's a hard concept to learn if you're just an automatic doer, is that you don't have to do all the time. You can just listen. You can just be there, and that's it. And that's all that you need to do in that moment.
Yes. Be, don't do. You heard it here from Quinn. Okay, friends. Well, we have a few minutes left. So if you have any burning questions, now is the moment. If not now, when? With Quinn. And so please feel free to drop them in the chat. This has been so good. I also love, I have to highlight this, is assessing what kind of problem it is before doing anything. Is it a people problem or a process problem? I wrote that down. That is so wise and so helpful, because again, we don't want to like sprint into something that we're not necessarily being the most helpful in that way, and really starting to identify and to pause, put down those things but I love that it's such a simple formula there to start there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I'm indecisive and I don't know what I want to eat. I'm like, well, do I want something like hot or cold? Let's just start there. Is it a
Yeah,
people thing or is it a process thing?
exactly. That active listening and sitting and listening helps every time, every situation, I promise.
Mm, yeah. Let's see. We got a few questions left in the chat. This is nice. Do you have a group of friends who you are also managers with and you like tips and trade advice and stuff? And I'm going to open this question up a little bit for folks that are looking to learn more about management. What are resources that you would recommend that maybe they already have, they haven't thought of yet?
Mm-hmm. So as far as like other managers, other people, yes, I have my besties who I commiserate with, because another manager is definitely going to understand. And then sometimes if you're having a problem and you don't know how to work through it, sometimes having the perspective of a peer, somebody on the exact same level, maybe they already went through that issue and they're able to help you walk through it when you can't figure out how to get through whatever that issue is. Currently, like the manager, there's one other co-manager with me on my level, and then we also have our senior manager. Like we lean on each other and depend on each other like crazy because we trust each other, right? And so we're able to, yes, commiserate, because sometimes, things aren't 100% great, and there's sometimes that you need to vent. So we're able to vent to each other, but we're also able to like problem solve with each other overall. So having some sort of support. And also one of the benefits that Ribbon provides is a subscription to Bravely. And Bravely is career coaching. And they're like, I like to say like your career, like your business therapist, kind of. If you do need somebody to lean on, oh my gosh, Bravely has been absolutely amazing. It's kind of like my career coach. Like I can go to them with problems that I'm having, hurdles that I don't seem to be able to overcome. And oh my God, it's been a God save to be able to have somebody with a complete outside perspective, somebody that's not in the company at all whatsoever, that can help me zoom out and see the bigger picture, or see things that I didn't see on my own, or that my peers maybe wouldn't be able to see, because we're all in it, So Bravely has definitely been something that's been super helpful to me.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. In a chat we were doing the other day, we were talking about the speaker offered up career health. We look at our mental health, we look at our physical health. Let's also take a look at our career health. And it sounds like that is a great resource for that.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
I love hearing that. Okay, friends, we're wrapping up here. Final moments here. So we asked Quinn some questions in advance. First question asked was, how would you describe the culture of Ribbon in one word, or Ribbon, as we are perhaps going to party later together? Innovative was your answer. What's your favorite part about working at Ribbon? The people. Clearly, you're such a people person. You love talking about people, with people, working with people. It's so fantastic. And what's your top tips for someone who is interviewing? Be yourself first and foremost. Be confident and be prepared. Wise words, Quinn.
Thanks. Yeah. I'll also add, like, in it to question number 2, what's my favorite part about working at Ribbon? It is the people, yes, but it's also the mission. I was lucky enough to find a company that I can work with where I am so aligned with the company's mission. So it makes it easier to get up and, come to work every day, because I actually love what I'm doing and what my company is contributing to the world.
Amazing. So feel free to check out Ribbon's page here, and you can follow Ribbon here at Power to Fly. But Quinn, how can folks follow you?
Yeah, so of course I'm on LinkedIn, but honestly, I don't post very often on LinkedIn. My current jam is actually TikTok. I actually have a little platform on TikTok where I do talk about the same things that, Ribbon helps with, which is making homeownership more attainable to like regular everyday people. So you can find me on TikTok, Quinn Williams. Just type in my name, Quinn Williams, and you'll see my little picture very similar to this one there. And yeah. Follow me on TikTok. That is the place where I'm most active, honestly.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Quinn. So
Yeah.
Quinn, thank you so much for this hour. Let's everybody, let's give Quinn a round of applause, digital round of applause for making the time. So many great tips. I learned a lot. I'm going to be reviewing my notes. I have lots of Post-it notes to make.
No, I love this. Thank y'all for inviting me. I loved this. I feel like I have literally found my people. The questions were great. The combo was amazing. So thank you, Hunter, because this didn't feel like some cheesy, stuffy little, Zoom thing. It literally felt like a conversation. And I hope that you guys feel that way too. This was great. And I'm happy to, come back and do it again, honestly.
We would love to have you back.
Of course.
Okay, Quinn, well, enjoy Texas. We just got a downpour here in New York, so I'm going to go make sure everything's covered with tarps. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks, of course. Y'all too. Have a great day.
All right, take care, everyone.